Hey everybody, this is Brett Ingram and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today we're talking with Romy Van Der Merwe, certified life coach, fluent in 3 languages, specializes as an imposter syndrome coach. So she's going to be sharing with us some real interesting stuff that not many people talk about, but I think is really important. So with that, welcome Romy, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Hi, Brett. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to our chat.
Awesome. So I know you're going to share with us some amazing tips. We're going to talk a lot about imposter syndrome and some other stuff and how to overcome it to realize our potential. But can you start off by giving us an idea, what exactly is imposter syndrome in the first place?
Great question. So, imposter syndrome, the best way I like to explain it is just to give an example. So let's say that there's 2 people, person A and person B, and they both told that there is a presentation, or they have to give a presentation in a week's time. Now, person A, for whatever reason, just doesn't prepare for it. And then on the day, they scramble to try and get everything ready. They're super stressed out, worried about the mistake they're going to make, really nervous about what people are going to say, give the presentation goes well, they claim the victory, and they move on. Now, all of these feelings of stress and everything is not imposter syndrome. That's just they didn't prepare and they were just in the moment, that was just doubting themselves.
Makes sense.
Now, someone with imposter syndrome, however, they also know about this presentation that's in a week's time, and they do one of 2 things. So they're so nervous about giving this presentation that they procrastinate till they absolutely have to get it done, and they cram everything in, completely stressing themselves out along the line. Or they start immediately and they really absolutely try and perfect the thing. So they try and dot every I, cross every T, make sure the font is perfect, the color is perfect, that everything is absolutely perfectly done. All the while they're thinking about, what if I make a mistake? What if they realize that they've picked the wrong person to give this presentation? What if they laugh at me? What if they fire me? Then they give the presentation goes really well, and instead of claiming the fact that it went well, it's more of a sense of relief. Okay, good, I dodged a bullet here, until next time when it happens again. So while the feelings are quite similar, the person with imposter syndrome it's not a situational thing. It's it's an ongoing thing, and it's a pattern that recurs, versus someone with self-doubt where it's just a situational thing.
Very interesting. So that's an interesting distinction, because I know whenever I've had deadlines or I've had stuff I had to do, there's always that pressure and that stress. But the fact that
Yes.
there's sort of a difference based on the root of it or where it comes from, and then how you feel after the fact makes, certainly seems like it makes a big difference there. So about your background, I'm curious what brought you down this path specifically, and what made you decide ultimately to focus on life coaching and imposter syndrome.
So I originally come from South Africa. I was born and raised there. Both my parents are German speaking, sent me to a German school. Then I started swimming from a very, very young age. And through swimming, I then got a scholarship to swim at Florida State University, which was just the most amazing experience. I was at that stage, I was keep competing internationally, representing both South Africa and the university. I went to NCAAs multiple times. I was on the dean's academic list and all these things. So on surface level, everything looked really, really good. But on the inside was a completely different story. So there was always a sense of having to achieve more, having to do something else, not being quite whatever the achievement was, it wasn't good enough. I needed to do more. And this pressure didn't come from anyone else other than from myself. And I didn't realize that. I just thought this is who I am. I just thought this is part of my DNA, that I am just a perfectionist and everything has to, there's always a level higher to achieve. Until I had an incident at my previous company where I had I've been absolutely integral in doing a deal. So I was a real estate agent, commercial property. And I went on maternity leave, and a month after giving birth, the colleagues that I'd been working on this deal with, they decided that actually I should not be paid the same amount as them because I was not there to complete the deal with them.
Wow.
Despite the fact that I had started the whole thing.
Wow.
And my default up until that stage was just to agree, just to like accept it, just to move on, because I hadn't been there like from start to end. But something changed in me then, where I realized that this is not right. This is not right to be cut out of something, to always agree, to always just accept. And I had done my work. I had done good enough. Anyway, so this whole thing then, it changed something within me, and I then went back into my career, into my swimming, into my life, and I just saw there was all these milestones where I just kept on trying to strive for this perfection, never achieving this perfection. When something went wrong, I just accepted it. It's my mistake. It's my fault. And through the life coaching, which I then started then, I got introduced to imposter syndrome, because at that stage I didn't even know what imposter syndrome was. And as I went through my life coaching and saw this imposter syndrome, I could identify all the things that had happened in my life. And that's then how I started my personal imposter syndrome journey. And because it was something that was so integral in my life for so many years without really knowing it, and I had then, through my coaching, being able to get the tools to work through it and to manage it and to, don't like you saying the word overcome, but to work through it.
Sure.
I then chose to focus on that specifically to help people to not have to go through all of this that I went through, to be able to just give them, the shortcuts to not have to deal with this for so many years. And that's why I decided to focus on imposter syndrome specifically.
Amazing. So the fascinating thing to me about it is that you can still achieve at a really high level. It isn't like it prevents you, but there's something about it that just makes you not be able to feel the rewards or always look to what's next and, oh, did I really deserve this? Or, should I really be doing that? Or I'm not good enough because there's a level above what I'm already doing.
Exactly.
And yet, you're still achieving at a really high level. And I think, for entrepreneurs in particular, that has to strike a chord, because I know historically we're really bad at, stepping back from situations and saying, look, yeah, there's more I want to accomplish, but I should pat myself on the back. This is pretty cool. What I was able to do here is pretty cool. And instead, it's always what the next goalpost is, and it's always what the next target is. And I think, that's a dangerous trap in and of itself, because it eats away at your self-esteem. You start to feel as though, well, geez, if I could only achieve that. But the flaw in that thinking is you'll never get there, because the goalpost keeps moving. It's not like, oh, there's a higher level and then I'll feel better. You have to change, I think, the way that you approach it and the way you look at it. So that's fascinating, because you had so much success, and yet you still kind of had those, those feelings nagging at you. So would you say that when you look back at your career, would you say the turning point was the time when you went on maternity leave and then you were sort of cut out of, and then you sort of were able to look at it from an outside perspective? Was that really the turning point for you?
100%, yes, that was really the turning point, because that was just, it was such a stark realization that I had done everything. I had done the work. And it was the first time that I actually looked at this objectively. And I'm like, but I was the one that brought the deal in. I was the one that started everything. I did 85% of the deal. They finished it off. So it was just the first time that I could actually look at that objectively, which was amazing. I just want to touch on two things that you mentioned. So you spoke about it being a dangerous trap and the goalposts constantly moving. And that's exactly what it is, right? So you achieve whatever it is that you set yourself out to achieve. And the best example that I like to use is in swimming. Now, looking back in my career, I can now see this. So for me, my ultimate goal was to make it to the Olympics, but you have to have small stepping stones to get there. So my first stepping stone was to make it to get a scholarship to the university, or to America, because America is the swimming mecca of the world. So I achieved that. I was excited for all of 5 seconds. I'm like, okay, but for me to really know that I've made it, I have to qualify and swim at NC2As. Following year, qualified, swam at NC2As. Wasn't good enough, because you actually need to final at NC2As, right? So following year, I finaled at NC2As. So whatever it was just never good enough. And constantly looking for that external validation and someone else telling you that you did a really good job. And when you do have that, someone pats you on the back, says you've done a good job, well done. Someone with imposter syndrome doesn't really internalize that and really actually sit and think about, actually, yes, I've done a really amazing job. I claim this for myself. I have been successful. So like you were saying, it becomes a dangerous trap as these goalposts keep on shifting.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, and it is funny. I mean, I know we're sort of, at least in the United States, I know in a lot of careers, we're almost conditioned to develop this because I know I was in a sales culture when I was younger. And one of the things that we would do is we had these monthly or actually weekly sales calls. But the ones that stood out to me were the ones that were at the end of the month and the beginning of the month, because at the end of the month, the conversation went something like this. The boss would say, listen, we got a couple days left of this month. We really just have to push hard because we want to hit X target or whatever. We want to outdo what we did before. And I remember thinking to myself, even intuitively at the time, how little sense this made, because what was going to happen is when we had the first call on the first of the month, it was going to be the same conversation with a different framing. Oh, well, now we finished that month strong. So now we just need to really buckle down and we need to do even better. And I'm saying to myself, I mean, there has to be a level of finality to this. You can't just grow infinitely. You only have a certain number of hours and how many calls you can make in a day. So, but I think in a lot of career paths and in a lot of even academic situations, we're almost conditioned to develop that in some regards. So can you give us an idea of what are the symptoms or the telltale signs of imposter syndrome, and why should we worry about it?
So there's a lot of different signs. The thing with imposter syndrome is it's a feeling, right? So it's not a medically diagnosable disease like Alzheimer's, for example. So it is quite subjective, and a lot of those feelings are just a big feeling of inadequacy. Whatever, like we've just been chatting about. So whenever you achieve something, you don't have the ability to objectively look at that and actually claim the victory and claim the success in that. The constant fear of someone finding out that you actually aren't capable. So you have this belief that you are not in the right position. You shouldn't actually be here. And whatever you have achieved to date has actually just been, you've been in the right place at the right time. You've just been lucky, but it's not actually your ability. It isn't something that you have achieved. Perfectionism is also a big thing. But the difference, so what I just want to touch on here is there's a difference between wanting to put out good work and to sit on something and to agonize over an email and to like reword it and put it into ChatGPT and then change that again and then put it back. Like instead of just writing an email, making sure there's no spelling mistakes, it looks decent, and sending it. So it's a lot of second guessing yourself, really questioning your ability, these often debilitating thoughts of are you actually capable? Are you the right person to be doing that? Should someone else be doing this instead? And it's this big fear. It's this constant fear of being found out. And it's debilitating.
Yeah, I can totally understand that and relate. I know when I talk to people about something like starting a podcast, because you're on camera or because you're on microphone, there's an obsession sometimes with some people that first episode's got to be perfect. And I tell them it's not going to be perfect no matter how much work you do, because the fact of the matter is it's a skill. The first time you got on a bike, what happened? Did you ride down the street, out around the corner and get on the highway? No, you fell down, you skinned your knee, and you said, you know what, I'm going to get up again. I'm going to try it again. And you got progressively better and better. And everything that you do that's skill-based is going to have that trajectory. So the best thing you could do is start, because otherwise you're that much further away from getting where you want to be. But the perfectionism thing, I actually think the other cool thing that's going on right now with the advent of AI is there's people are leaning more into authenticity. And authenticity is imperfection, right? I mean, not everything we do is perfect. None of us are perfect. We make mistakes. We do things. When I edit episodes or whatever, I don't go in and get rid of every and all that other stuff, because I feel like there's something real about the fact that it's not overproduced, you know, and that it's real. It's human and it's interaction, and that's what we're doing. So I love the distinction, though, and I think the idea that you sort of feel like you're going to be found out. I mean, I've seen people in that scenario before, and it's got to be very, very stressful and debilitating because it's pervasive, right?
Yes. And it absolutely does. But also just to touch on what you said is like when you're starting something. So that first podcast episode that you did, the nerves around like making a mistake and not being as good as you potentially can be. And what we tend to do as people, as humans, is we then compare ourselves, right? The comparison game. So you comparing your episode 1 that you're doing to someone's episode 20, right?
Yeah.
And you just can't. They're fundamentally different. You have to start somewhere. And like you say with the bicycle, you fall, you skin your knees, you try to get onto the bicycle again. First episode is not going to be great. Whatever you do the first time is probably going to be quite terrible. But the someone with imposter syndrome would get so stuck in that, so right. Like, oh my gosh, maybe I should just, quit. Like it was awful, it was terrible, and just quit. Versus if you are aware of these thoughts and what is happening, and you can objectively look at that, okay, so what? You know what? The first episode maybe wasn't amazing, but it was good. And these are the things that I can improve on. And next time around, improve on those. So then when episode 2 comes, that it's going to be, again, not perfect, but it's going to be better than episode 1. And as you go along, it's really just, it's taking that quote unquote mistake, learning from that, and that learning is knowledge, right? And knowledge is power, and then that power is really what gets you through to do all the episodes. What episode are you on now for interest?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, for me, I didn't start doing interviews for podcasts until probably 2 months ago. The first 9 months were all solo episodes. And so, I mean, I'm into 300 plus episodes now.
Amazing.
But,
wow.
But yeah, and same thing, right? So if you look at somebody who's been doing this and they're professional and they're making all this money and they're, super successful with it. If you start by comparing yourself to them as a comparison, you'll never start. You'll never get off the couch because it's so far from where you are. It would be like being a swimmer and you're in the kiddie pool learning how to swim and you're comparing yourself to an Olympic gold medal. Like you've got to take it one step at a time and recognize that through patience and persistence and skill and the passion that you have for doing it, you'll progressively get better. And I think that that's a really important distinction and something that people have to just recognize the process and enjoy the process of the growth. Every time you see something where you're getting better at something, I think that's really important. So
yes.
Some people might be thinking, okay, I understand what you're saying, but how big of an issue is this really? Can you share how common imposter syndrome is, and in the context of work or business, who does it really affect?
So great question. Again, because it is a feeling, it's not quantifiable. But in saying that, the latest stats say that 70 to 80%, it's a massive number of people in the workplace setting have had this proper imposter syndrome feelings. So it's a really, really, really big or prevalent phenomenon that's happening, and it's not really being addressed properly because again we're just told, you push through, fake it till you make it, just ignore it, you'll be fine, eventually you'll get over it. But it actually needs to be properly addressed, and the people that it affects most is high achievers, because again there's this level of never quite achieving the goal that you want in the moving goalposts. It's women, it's even socioeconomic differences. So if someone comes from a working class group to a not working class group, any situation where the person coming into a group is different. And that happens. So the core of where that comes from is because we are fundamentally social beings. And we historically, in order for us as species to survive, we had to be part of the group. We had to be part of the collective.
Sure.
So you can't stand out. You can't be different. You can't stick out, because then you'll be ostracized. You'll be cast aside, right? So you have to fit in. And this inherent fear of being kicked out of the tribe is part of where this imposter syndrome comes from. So that's why we need to fit into the mold, fit into what's doing, and always achieve, so that we are part of the group and are not kicked out.
Really interesting. It's really interesting origin to that, but it makes total sense. So if we feel like, okay, yes, some of the things that she's describing sound like me, how can we identify if it's actually an issue for us? How will it show up in what we're doing on a daily basis?
So coming back to my earlier example, you can see if it's situational. So if you have something in this event, so call it a deadline, call it the presentation, whatever it is, an event is causing you stress. And after the event is done, Are you done with the stress, or does the stress still continue? So the person with imposter syndrome, when they're told about this deadline or told about this presentation, they will start immediately getting into their heads about it, immediately starting to doubt themselves. Am I capable? Am I able to do this? And when the event is done, instead of claiming it and being okay with it, or actually just like celebrating the fact that they did a good job, they don't claim it, and they have more of this sense of relief. So it's really situational. And when you look at that, is it a recurring theme? Is it something that happens every time there's a deadline? Is it every time there's a presentation, every time that something happens? Or is it just like a once-off here and there? So it's really being aware of, that's really the first step, becoming aware of every time these thoughts and feelings come up, how often are they coming up? Is it a pattern, or is it linked to something specifically, something external?
That makes sense. And I think it's, it gives us a really good sort of guideline for assessing ourselves in the sense of, if you, I believe awareness in a lot of situations is the first step, right? Because
Yes.
if you don't understand what you're doing, or you're not aware, so many of us go through our lives on autopilot because we have so many things to do. We just
Yes.
move from one thing to the next to the next. We don't stop. We don't reflect. We don't think about our relationship with various things or our reactions to things. And I remember I was reading something at one point, and they were talking about, various different emotions like anger or whatever else. And, there's that little bit of space between the thing, that the stimulus that causes you to get angry. The guy cuts in front of you on the highway or whatever.
Yes.
And your response. And if you can identify that, then you can choose. So instead of just reacting and being angry, or reacting and feeling like I'm a fraud here, I hope nobody, if you could step in the middle of that and say, wait a minute, no, I can rewire this, and I can short circuit that and put in something that's a little bit more healthy, or recognize that I should feel pretty good about this. This was a good presentation. A lot of people liked it. So exactly, I think that's very powerful.
If I may jump here,
Yeah,
I'm
of
jumping.
course.
I love what you just said. So the power of choice. The power of choice is such a massive superpower that we have, but we just as people, we just don't take it, right? So in any given situation, like whatever happens, and yes, sometimes it is really something absolutely awful, but we have the power to choose, how do we perceive it, how do we react to it, and how do we move forward from this. And again, society is really good about giving us, a pat on the back for being the victim, having a tough life, and friends and family, and that they're often really well-meaning when they just sit with you and try and console you in that. But you actually have a choice. Do you want to sit in the situation? Do you want to stew in the situation? Do you want to let the person that has cut you off ruin the start of your day or the rest of your day, whatever it is? Or is it maybe that this person is like rushing off to the hospital for some reason? Like, you don't know what's going on.
Right.
So you have a choice of how to react in any given situation. But again, it does come to that awareness, and it does come to that just noticing the thought and the reaction and the emotion in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very, very true. So, if we're talking about imposter syndrome, it must mean that if there's the opportunity or the situation where you might feel like an imposter, there must also be a real or authentic me inside each of us. So how do we access that? How do we step into our real identity so we can try to create more productive and positive habits?
So I love that. I 100% agree with you that we all have within us, and sometimes it's really deep within us, but we all have that intrinsic confidence within us. As kids, we never had this thought of like, oh, if I have a complete meltdown, people are going to judge me. That doesn't come until much later in life, where you actually worry about what other people say, what do other people think. So we have that in us. And one of the wonderful coaches that I work with, Jessie Torres, she has this way of saying that we don't have to what is it? We don't have to create that confidence. We have to unveil that. And I love that distinction, because yes, it is within us. And there's a couple of ways to really, really start connecting with that. And the first thing is something which is called a courage journal or a brag book or something, which is really a place where you start documenting all your achievements. And it doesn't have to be a massive achievement. It doesn't have to be like you won an award at work. It's literally, you got the presentation in on deadline. Oh, at deadline. You did a good presentation. You if you're in sales, for example, like you had the confidence to pick up the phone and make that first call if you're starting. So whatever it is, it's a small win that you can actually document. And when you start documenting it, it does two things. You start seeing how much you're actually achieving. And once you start writing it down, it'll come more naturally. The first time is difficult to write it down, but you start seeing how much you actually are achieving and how much you are doing. And then you start writing the bigger things that happen. And then the second thing is when you're having a low, you can flip back and just like reassure yourself, not reassure yourself, but show yourself in black and white everything that you actually have done and have been capable or are capable of. So it really starts building on that internal confidence, because getting the pat on the back or getting that external validation is going to be great in the moment, but it doesn't really, from the inside out, build that confidence. So that's really it's a great, it sounds like a simple tool, but it is such a wonderful, helpful tool.
No, it's a great distinction, because I know even in my own life, and I have pretty good awareness about things because I've, I love to learn. So I'm always learning about different, ideas and stuff like that. But one of the interesting things for me is it's very easy for me to play back a reel in my head of mistakes I made. It's
Absolutely.
a little bit harder to think about all the good things. And then it's true, if you start to document that, or you start to look back across things that you've done, it's amazing to me how the mind can minimize all of that and sort of discard it or hide it. Whereas if there's a mistake you made, I mean, I can remember things I did that embarrassed me when I was 6 years old.
Yes.
And it's like, I did good things at 6 too, and there's one or two I might remember, but not a lot. And I think that in and of itself affects our sort of inner monologue. Then we talk to ourselves about all the negative stuff. We keep reliving that. And that, again, just keeps dinging our self-esteem. Whereas if we're focused on the positive, I think it builds us up and it makes us feel better about who we are and what we're capable of. And, everybody's an individual, so it's important to embrace that too. So can you give us an example of this in action, like maybe one of your most memorable success stories of a coaching client or someone whose career you helped, transform in terms of imposter syndrome?
Absolutely. Just quickly to follow on, I just want to stack onto what you just mentioned there about our brains just like defaulting to the negative. So we have something like 80 to 90,000 thoughts a day, of which 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day, of which like 80 to 90% is negative, right? So that's a massive amount. And it's really just influenced. We've got so much external stuff coming at us from all different angles. It's social media. It's how you should react. It's how you should behave. Men, you need to have 6-packs. Women, you need to be skinny. Like it's all these things of what you should do that we berate ourselves unconsciously or subconsciously all day long. So it really is being intentional about this. And there's this great thing that I love to say, because for me, it's just so visual, that our brains are like Teflon for the positive, but Velcro for the negative. Right? So it's just
good analogy.
Seeing that, being intentional. And the Brad book then feeds into that. And being intentional is really the big thing. But to answer your question, so yes, I had one of my very first clients, who actually was also a big reason why I went onto this imposter syndrome, or why I specialize in imposter syndrome, is he was in sales and he was doing phenomenally well. The company then went through a very rough patch throughout COVID. And the CEO at that stage, he came to him and he said, you know what, whatever you've been doing so far is not working. So you need to try these new methods and do these now. So he started doing these new sales methods, trying to do them, and they just never sat right with him. He just didn't feel confident in doing them, but because the CEO told him to do so, he did so. He was getting bad results. He was losing clients. Sales were plummeting. CEO was on his case. Clients that were pulling out, they were on his case, really just calling him and like just dumping on him. So it was a really tough situation where he was just getting, again, bombarded from every angle. And when we started working, he was just really at a low point, because he was doing exactly what he was being told to do.
Right.
He was just not getting the results. In fact, it was going really, really, really badly. So what we then did is we just started stripping all of that out, stripping out the negative associations to what was happening, understanding that it wasn't from him, but he was taking it all on. And once we started working through that and getting him connected again with his confidence, he then had the confidence to say, listen, these new sales methods are not working. Mm-hmm. I'm going to move back to what I know to be true and what I know to work. Once he started doing that, the sales started increasing again. He had one of the biggest stakeholders that was about to jump ship, got him to reinvest again, and everything just started spiraling upwards to the point where the CEO then came back to him and said, hey, I was sorry. Oh, I am sorry. You were right. Let's stick to what you're doing. In fact, can you teach other people what you are doing?
Wow.
And that all just boils down to the self-belief inability, because he had that ability. He just lost the confidence in himself.
Yeah.
And we just got him to connect with that again. So it was, so that was a big, wonderful moment for both of us. And he really helped me get onto my imposter syndrome track as well.
It's amazing. And I think, sales is obviously one of those industries where you can really see, because if you don't believe in what you're doing, if you don't believe in yourself, it's impossible to be successful in sales. And, it's funny. I actually, when I was in staffing, when I was early out of college, I actually was left to my own devices to get clients and do all that other stuff. And so I didn't have a lot of experience, but I just sort of did it by feel. And then the CEO had aligned a new boss with me. And this guy was going to be a regional manager. So he would come out and ride on sales calls with the various salespeople. So I had my little territory and I had established my clients and stuff like that. So he comes out with me. And on the first day, we go to a client office, and I'm, saying to the woman, I'm a Red Sox fan. She had a Mets something or other, like a logo or a helmet. And I said, oh, if you're a Mets fan, I'm leaving. I can't even do business with you. So she starts to laugh and everything. We get out of the office after. I was talking about her kids and stuff. She had pictures of them up there. We get out of the office after, and my boss says to me on the way back to the car, you really got to cut the small talk. People aren't really interested in that.
Wow.
And I knew at that moment that culture was not going to work for me. I said, we're in a commoditized business. We're selling staffing. There's a million, I literally would talk to clients that said, you're my 9th call today. They were getting 9, 10, 12 calls a day. The only reason they do business with you is because they like you and because there's a connection. And he completely didn't get it. And yet this guy sort of failed upward. Because they made him a manager because he had one account that exploded. So it was crazy, but I could see how it would erode. Like if I had taken that advice and I said, you know what, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in like, straight at them. And I'm just going to say, well, these are the services and this is what it would have been, a miserable failure. So believing in yourself, even sometimes when your approach might be unique or might be not what's standard, I think sometimes is the right thing to do, because it's got to be authentic to who you are for you to be successful with it. So
absolutely, but it's having the confidence to stick with what you know to be true.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, and especially like being a rookie, like you said, being new in that's amazing that you had the confidence to know that, listen, I know that people or clients are first and foremost people. They're not just, you don't just ram things down their throats. You actually need to build a rapport. They are human beings.
Yeah.
And to be able to trust in yourself and trust in your gut and trust into your intuition is amazing. Well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I looked at it from the perspective of, I think about the people that try to sell me stuff. And if they come right at me, oh, you're a military veteran. I've got this thing. I'm not a military veteran. You don't know me. It's obviously, or if it's just a hard sell. Whereas if it's somebody that's going to take the time to understand me, then it's a little bit easier to want to do business with people like that. So it makes total sense. So tell us about what programs or services you offer and where can we find you?
So I am super active on social media. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram are my 3 most active, and everywhere at Romy V Coaching. I am currently offering a 30-minute call with anyone who just wants to chat, see if they have imposter syndrome, see what is holding them back. So just to jump on a call and see where I can help you to identify that and to move forward from there. And I do offer 2 ways to work with me, really. So the one is group coaching, which is an 8-week immersive group coaching program. And we really go deep into uncovering the limiting beliefs, stripping those out, building you up from the inside out with real confidence, and then getting you absolutely clear what it is that you want in your profession. So what is it that you want to achieve, and really, really, really connecting with that goal on such a passionate and emotional level that it keeps you going. And then we get you to get to your goal. And I do that either in a group setting or in one-on-one.
Awesome. So my last question that I always ask is, what is your number one tip for success as a business owner or an entrepreneur?
Be intentional. Every single day, when you wake up, be intentional. And I don't mean set yourself a 45 to-do list thing that'll just overwhelm you, but have your three things that you are going to do today no matter what. And just have three, because what ends up happening is if you have 10 things on your to-do list and you only do 7, then you have failed, right? Whereas if you have 3 things to do and you achieve 5, you've had a super successful day. So really be intentional and set yourself up for success every single day and just stick with it consistently.
I love that, and I love the framing of it by the 3, because I'll tell you a funny story. When I used to have planners, the old school, like written planners, what I would do is I'd write all my stuff down. So I didn't have to think about it. It's all there.
Yeah.
And what I would do is copy over day after day after day the 27 things I could never get to.
Yes,
and I eventually
yes.
realized stick to 5, stick to 3,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And if those are the core things that are most important, you get those done. The rest is gravy, but at least you got done what you needed to get done, and you're not constantly overwhelmed by all the stuff that you should have gotten to that you never had a chance to get to. You just
That's
weren't
exactly
realistic
right.
about it. So
That's exactly right. And it builds your confidence because you can see that every day you are achieving something. You are achieving these 3 things. So yes, well put. Absolutely.
I love that. Okay, so with that, it's just about time to wrap things up. I want to thank you again, Romy, for sharing all your insights and great tips with us. Get your free 30-minute clarity call with Romy to uncover your root cause and see what's really preventing you from accelerating your career. Book a time on our calendar at calendly.com/Romy, ROMY -confidence coach /clarity-call, and you'll be glad you did. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, remember, no matter what you want from your business and your life, don't compromise. optYOUmize.